Commentary, and this is a video overview of this knife. This knife is a knife that I've been trying to get my hands on for purposes of a review for a very long time. What you see before you is the Kershaw tilt. There are two versions of the Kershaw tilt, one with a black blade and blacked out frame, and this one that has a stonewashed frame and a stonewashed blade. This knife was produced by Kershaw about 5 years ago, and it is a knife that has a lot of firsts. It was the first knife to use KVT, which is Kershaw Velocity technology, and that is a captured bearing system. So essentially the bearings sit inside of a plastic housing, and they are able to move, but they're not able to escape the plastic housing. So it's sort of like the way a ball in the ball bearing works in a ballpoint pen. A couple of other things that the Kershaw has put in this knife. It was one of the very first knives that had a titanium pocket, sculpted titanium pocket clip by Kershaw. As you can see, and it's quite obvious, it's a flipper, and it is a really marvelous flipper. You can see a couple of other innovations right here. They have the sintered blade, so that there is 14C28N on top. And then the other innovation is the use of Vanax 75. Vanax 75 is a steel that runs nitrogen instead of a lot of carbon. So its wear resistance is similar to S90V, but the inclusion of carbon gives it a little bit more corrosion resistance. A couple other things that are really interesting about the tilt. The tilt has a frame limiter, is what Kershaw calls it, and the frame limiter is basically an angle cut into the frame lock. So normally in the frame lock, this cut right here is made, and it is perpendicular to the material, so that it's like a 90-degree. Like if you're looking at it from this angle, the cut goes up and then in at 90 degrees. In this case, it goes up and then down. So it's not 90 degrees, it's probably a little bit more than 90 degrees. I think they said it's 15 or 16 degrees off 90. So the end result is, when you go to close the knife and you push the lock bar all the way over, the lock bar actually hits this portion of the handle, and so there's no need for a lock bar stabilizer. The other advantage of this design, they used wire EDM to cut this, and so there are very tight tolerances between the lock bar here and the handle. And so not only does it limit the lock bar going this way, but it also keeps it from having any play that way. This knife was sent to me by a reader, and so I have not beat up on it, because this is one of the most difficult to find production knives. And that said, I have carried it and I have used it to cut things, and it is quite good. This knife is giant. I mean, it's a 4-inch blade. The handle is even bigger. But if you have the knife in your hand, you see that your hand sort of falls very naturally into this front finger choil, the index notch, and then kind of over there. The other thing is, if you hold the knife in this position, what could be a problem with this pointy pocket clip just hides right in the middle of your palm. Everything about this knife is just really well designed and well considered. In fact, one of the issues that I have sometimes with the sculpted titanium pocket clips is that they're really bulky, but as you can see here, Kershaw took the time to drill that out just to give you a little bit more visual interest and maybe lighten it up a little bit. The tension on the sculpted clip is perfect. It's really quite good. Most of the time these kind of feel like they're just, once you bend them out of shape, they're done, but this is very well done. Overall, I would say that this knife is really sort of the beginnings or the foundations for the super folders that we've been seeing, these production knives that are well over $300. A lot of them owe their existence to some of the features that are found in this knife. In fact, I think that it's fair to say that this knife is so good that it influenced a lot of the custom makers out there. This is one of the knives, one of the very few knives when it came out that had really just super smooth action. I mean, I know that there were custom makers who were doing this before, but this is the one that sort of brought it to the forefront, because you're getting essentially a custom design with high-end production capabilities. As you can see, the carbon fiber is really, really nice and shiny. And yet, it's not too slick in the hand because you have a very well-shaped handle. The other thing, if you really want to choke up, you can. You can choke way up here, and you can go way back down here and sort of hold it almost in like a pistol grip. the Kershaw tilt is just an amazing, amazing knife. It does so many things well. It was the first knife to do them well, but it's not simply innovation. There is some really good design features here. And so even though it's old and there are knives that do everything that it does and a little bit more, this is still a remarkable blade. I've handled tons of knives, and this one definitely stands out. So thanks to Elliot for letting me take a look at this knife, because it is awesome. Look for, I don't know if I'm going to do a review because it's kind of silly to review a knife like this, but look for an article on Everyday Commentary on this knife, which is the Kershaw tilt.